to see. I don't know if we could change anything with the white lights because we're going to have some sort of contest amongst ourselves to figure out what we all know about blockchain. I was thinking a little bit about this, what's happening in the marketplace, or where are we in terms of what we've learned and closing this gap between what we've been promised, what we thought we had been promised around blockchain, and what its real potential is. So that's what we want to walk through together today. If I could have the next chart. Or a clicker. All right, great. So an interesting study done by Capgemini was around where is blockchain currently being deployed, for what value? And the respondent could pick more than one of these categories, right? So this is sort of warm up for the quiz that's coming later. But 80% of the deployments in blockchain cover 3 areas: cost savings, traceability, and transparency. And interestingly, the claims of those deployments is that we're having cost reductions of over 30%. I mean, you would think that is a rousing success, that we should be doing even more around blockchain deployments. But if we go to the next chart, for creating all that value, why are we in the so-called trough of disillusionment, as Gartner says? If we could click again to take a look at it. We're at the bottom of this thing. So if you think about this from a business case perspective, you'd say, well, that doesn't make any sense. It's providing all that value, and yet we're at the lowest point. How can that be? And I think it really points to a couple of questions that we'll go into in terms of what we need to do to accelerate this slope of enlightenment in terms of where is blockchain really being deployed. If we go to the basic question, do I need a blockchain? If there's any other way you can deploy or solve the problem, the answer is no. Right? And so it's some of the pilots, maybe many of the pilots, have not gone through some of the basic framing of that and looked only at one aspect of it before they've proceeded with a pilot. Okay, so now the quiz comes. So please just build one. I'll give the notice one at a time so we don't give the answers too early. Okay, first, next click. Not yet, though. Estimated number of blockchain projects worldwide. Who wants to take a guess? Global blockchain projects. Just guess. Did that come up before you said it? Okay, guys, I've got to have a clicker, or this is going to be the worst presentation these guys see today. Okay, how many think more than that? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, the percentage of blockchain projects that have failed. Yeah, let's click it again. You guys are pretty close on that, and I know at least you didn't cheat on that. 92%. So now you're seeing why we're down in this trough. We down in the valley of this thing. We're failing at these deployments. Why? Let's go to the next question. So how long do we think the average length of a blockchain project is? Not a pilot, a project. Okay, hearing gaps or ranges between 3 months and a year. It's a little longer than that. If we could have the next click. 1.2 years. Okay, but how about a pilot? Let's go to the next question. Okay, the modal length, by the way, I'm not really sure that's what it is. I think it's more the average of an enterprise-sponsored proof of concept. How long do you think that is? 2 months, someone said? Any other guesses? 4, 6? Yeah, 4 to 12 weeks. So it's really short. So you do all these things to set it up. You have a very short you have a very short pilot and wonder why it hasn't delivered. Okay, so there's a gap between how long it's taking us to deploy these projects, learn from them, and accelerate into impact. Okay, so how much money are we spending on it? If we've done, thank you so much, helps a lot. If we've done all these things, 80,000 projects, how much money have we spent in blockchain just last year? Guess. 1 billion? Over, under? Yeah, 1.5. You're close. Okay, and what about how much more do we think it's going to grow for this year? We're well into the year, so we should have a good idea of this. You guys are pretty good. This is a lot less of an educational moment than I was hoping for. Okay, 88% increase, right? So again, we could be going up that trough, but we've got to land these things in the right place, or we're going to still have these high percentage failure rates. Okay, so let's shift this a little bit, because we know blockchain takes some computing power. What's the average utilization of owned computing resources today? Average, don't get fooled. Okay, well, you clearly weren't fooled. 1% was the guess, 20%. Okay, so a bunch of excess capacity sitting there, but is it enough to do these blockchain projects? What's the ratio of Bitcoin computing power to the combined power of the top 500 of the world's most powerful computers? So you think a 10 to 1, or you think a 0.1 to 1? Now you're going to learn something. 100,000 to 1. So we can't buy the compute power to run these projects, to quickly stand them up, get our progress, and then learn and go to the next one, or fail and go to the next one. The model's just not going to scale for us in this way. So there's got to be a different way to approach this. Okay, then who are we talking to about blockchain? CIOs who say that they have blockchain solutions in pilot or production. This is a percent of CIOs. You want to guess? 78. Under or over? What do you think? More or less? Under. Yeah. Amazing, right? It's going to be an insight here. Stay with me. CIOs who have clear and current blockchain implementations planned. Guess. It's not an absolute number. 2, somebody said. 13%. Okay, I'll take questions at the end of this. It'll be fun. CIOs who have no interest in implementing, and remember, CIOs who have no interest in implementing blockchain. Yeah, I heard 80 and 20, so we've definitely got the range. So here's the thing. The ideas, the decision makers, the catalyst for blockchain are not sitting in the IT department. Right? So we've got to get out of that shop to talk to others about changing the business model, about what's possible. Yeah? Was there a question now? Oh, of course not. The point is not everyone needs blockchain. Of course not. That's going to be, I mean, first of all, I think we all can learn from some level of trying and piloting. But this notion of using blockchain where it isn't the only answer means it's the wrong answer. Right? So selecting where we can really change the business model, where there is this requirement to have access to data and to legal entities, different legal entities having access to data across the value chain at different points, even at simultaneous points, is a critical dimension of the right use case. But this notion of talking to IT about it is not going to allow us to get out of this, or allow us to get out of this tribe and allow us to get into this enlightenment phase. So what keeps us from going to the right? First of all, we believe we've got to get outside the IT shop, as I've said. we believe that each of these organizations, each of our organizations, are not going to have the compute power, the resources, sometimes even the skills, to deploy blockchain internally. We're going to need a partnership across the different aspects of capability to stand up pilots quickly. If you can imagine sort of a blockchain cloud kind of consortium, whatever kind of visual you want to put together around this kind of partnership, we believe that's going to be the model that's going to be much more successful going forward as we together learn what's possible in a blockchain environment, or as blockchain helps to change the way we think about business opportunity. And that, when we get to those places, I think the point that blockchain isn't right for everything is so important to this. That's why we're at the 92% failure. It's not because the technology wasn't there, it was because we were applying it in a different way. So that's our point of view in terms of, you know, how these numbers, if you will, come together, to not say that there isn't the opportunity, but that we've been pointing it in the wrong direction. So the approach that we're taking to this is more of a systems approach, right? So it's not, you know, just a blockchain thing, but how does all this come together to ensure where blockchain is relevant, where the use case is relevant, that we truly change the impact that the model is having on behalf of our customers, on behalf of our organization. So a couple examples that we've been working with. One is around disintermediating manufacturing. So if you can imagine the blockchain being used for accessing manufacturing equipment that I don't own on site. What that could do is change the delivery model, if you will, change the capital investment model of being able to purchase new equipment, and also from the sales of the equipment, of a seller being able to shorten their time to close a deal, because one would be able to essentially outsource, essentially utilize access into that very expensive equipment through use of blockchain, so that everything stays confidential, but yet access to that expensive piece of capital equipment is available to all. Different model than what we see today. Right? So that's an example where blockchain would change the model, and it takes a true systems approach. It takes a different kind of partnership to be able to deliver that. Another example, we're working with an organization called FinServe that's doing micro-insurance, where they're able to go to essentially allow insurance for millions of people that don't have it today, by being able to link everything from origination to securing the entire value chain across all the different lenders, creditors, and the entire service provider to be able to access that customer and provide them a small amount of insurance in a completely different model. So this opens up millions of opportunities, right? And these aren't, you know, database kind of options for blockchain, or alternatives for blockchain, or things that could be done through analytics or in other ways. So we believe when you look at the opportunity space and frame this around how things are connected, we think of sort of the digital glue around that, allowing the infrastructure to scale, as we've talked about. This compute power is something that we have not seen before. You know, we need different models to address that. And then, of course, it gives us an inherent security in terms of the technology, but we also believe that security has to be across the system to really deliver the value. So anyway, this is the way we're thinking about blockchain implementations and working with clients around the world, and as well looking to announce coming up soon how this partnership, how this ecosystem of startups and other players in the blockchain environment could be able to partner together and with us to be able to access that kind of compute power and this kind of systems expertise in a more holistic or systemic way that benefits all of us, not just a few of us that have the scale. Okay, and with that, I'd be happy to take any of your questions or give you a minute or two back. Any questions or comments? I don't know, have some of our experts from
Maybe
T-Systems?
we can pull up the Slido. Let's see what we've got. Okay, we've got two.
Excellent.
What are the most common objections from CIOs in engaging with blockchain? That's the first question.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. And I think, in many organizations, the CIOs are not charged with defining the change in the business model. They're supporting the change of the business model, but not coming up with it. So I think mostly the CIOs are playing the role that we would want them to play, which is say there's another way we can do that. With a catalyst has to come from outside the organization. Of course, there are also, realities of all of the things the CIO has on their plate and how they would prioritize something that they know, is not yet going to have the scale, that they don't yet have the scale to be able to deal with it. So we're trying to make this an easier decision for them, but I think that still the catalyst has to come from outside of that organization. What about decentralization?
We've got Bart with the decentralization. What about it?
I'm not sure, Bart, what you're asking about.
Bart, can you clarify?
I'm all in favor of decentralization, Bart.
Yeah, the question is more like, can we build a solution that doesn't is needed of a giant one supercomputer, but more like 20,000 small computers. So we can have the same computing power, but with say 20,000 phones instead of one cloud-based supermachine.
Yeah, no, I think that there should be a way to broaden the network of access. I'm not sure it's through phones. With the right security across the system, and that's part of what you'll see coming from us in terms of how do we scale this. So yeah, there's some aspects of decentralization I think that will be required to be able to get the compute power to scale for all of us. Yes.
Amazing. Katharyn, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much.